All right. Good morning, MoB family. How's everyone doing? All right, so welcome to our MoB Kaffeeklatsch episode 117. Whoa! I hope you're all doing well. Let's see who's here. Let me say hello to all the people. Let's see. Hello, Connie. Hello, Bitten Peaches storyteller. I'm guessing that's you, Chris. Let's see, a few Facebook users. So I'm just gonna say good morning and hello. Let's see. Hello, Heather. Good morning. Hello, Marie. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. Yes. Laura. Good morning. Let's see who else is here. Linda. Good morning. A lot of Facebook users, so I don't see your name. So please let StreamYard have permission to post your name. Let's see who else is here. Yeah, see, Chris has it right here. Here's the link. Go there, please, and let StreamYard have permission. Audrey, good morning. And your streak goes unbroken, Audrey, with the questions. Yes. Yeah, so let's see. Everybody's here. So let me start the shout outs and we can get into the show because I have to go on time today. I got things I gotta do. I gotta get kids to go get. I gotta do the afternoon school run. Dolly's away, so I gotta go do the school run today too, morning and afternoon. So huge shout out to YouTube people. Hello, YouTube world. Hello, everyone. Where exactly is Robin Hood going? Sherlock? What is it? Sherwood Forest? Hello to everyone on YouTube. Thank you so much for following us on YouTube. If you're following us there, if you're watching this show there and it's not 11:30, you're watching it later, a huge thank you to whether in YouTube or Facebook, wherever you watch this show. And thank you for watching it later on. We have it recorded just for that reason. So a huge thank you to all of you who are watching it now, who are here now, and also who are watching it later. Yeah, so tight schedule today. Yes, Chris, is a tight schedule today. And I got to fit in kettlebells and a 2.5 mile walk and writing because I'm in the middle. Actually, no, I'm not in the middle. I'm at near the end of Immortal. So probably by the end of this weekend, Immortal will be done. And then the art opens for Monty and Strong number 23. So brace yourselves. It's a busy day, weekend happening. Let's see. We're also on Instagram. I haven't posted Instagram because I've been in the word cave for the last few weeks. I mean, like nonstop. So I've just been in the word cave. I haven't posted anything, but I will once Immortal is done. I'll start kind of fitting in the posting to get it done. So it's just the nature of the schedule is like that. Enid, hello, Enid, welcome. Hello. So huge shout out to all of you on YouTube. We're at Ben Peaches Publishing. You can find us there. Please sign up. That'll help us get to our 1,000 subscribers. And subscribe, like, and share this show that we're doing. It's amazing. We're at 117. I don't know how we got to 117, but we're at 117, and that's amazing. Oh, you're still on Archmage. Oh, Archmage is 20. That's 3 books away. So you're not too far away. You got Archmage, Entropy, Corpse Road, and now Immortal. So awesome. We're also on Zazzle. So my lead designer is not here today, and my senior designer is in school. So, but go to Zazzle. We're at M&S at Zazzle. It's EMANDES at our Zazzle store, and just go get some swag. The most recent swag is from Endgame. I believe it's magnets and some covers, and I think she's gonna do some more stuff in time. And I know the Immortal swag that's coming is going to be amazing because the Immortal cover is incredible. That the cover for Immortal, when Deranged Doctor Design created that cover, and we'll discuss covers a little later in the show. But I just want to kind of say, I just want to give you a preview. When Deranged Doctor Design created the Immortal cover, first of all, I didn't think it was allowed because the Immortal cover is crazy awesome, right? But it has like a head and weapons and like, what are you doing? How could you do this? Can we get away with this? And they said, no, you could definitely do this. You just can't be too graphic or gory or whatever. And I was like, this is kind of on the edge. But the cover blew me away. So I know that Immortal cover is going to be like, wow, because I've previewed it with a lot of people and like, whoa. So yeah, let me see what the new favorite quote is. Gray belongs to the Too Crotchety to Die Club for sure. That's a great quote. Yeah, he does belong to that club for sure. I like Gray. Gray's like, I don't want to say Gray's my favorite character, but and I've said this before in the show, right? Gray is the character that I resonate the most with. As much as I love Monty and Simon, and of course everybody, I love Peaches. Peaches is, but Peaches is Peaches, right? But Gray is like, man, there's something special about Gray, and even when it's like he's older, he's cranky, he's been around the block a lot of times. And now he's taking on someone new, like with Coda. He's got Frank. He's got Cole. He kind of settled in his ways. He's got his own little life going, But he also has a duty, and that duty as a night warden doesn't let him dial it in. He has to be front and center all the time, and he's the one. He's the one that's like, who's gonna fight for those who don't have no one to fight for? Who's gonna be the voice for the voiceless? And that really encapsulates Gray, in a nutshell. Like, Gray is the voice for the voiceless, and he's willing to die on that hill. He's willing to go to the streets, go to the trenches, and he'll face anyone. And to the point where he'll face Izanami, which is a bloodthirsty goddess, and he won't let her take over because he knows what's at stake. And he has contingency plans, like with Monty and other beings, that if he does ever lose it, they're to put him down with extreme prejudice because he will not be a threat to the city that he has sworn to protect. So he's a real deep character, scary too because he's really powerful, but really, really deep, And Simon is. How do I explain Simon? Because right now I'm in the middle of writing Simon. So Simon is going through he's not going through a crisis, but he's going through, and I kind of want to explain this without spoiling. So let me get through this real quick. The shout outs. So Patreon, I want to give a huge shout out to Cooper Walls, who is a new member of our Patreon. And shout out to all the patrons because you guys are amazing for going above and beyond. You guys are amazing. Fantastic. I really, really, really appreciate you guys. I appreciate everyone in the mob. And you guys are just amazing that you go even further than everyone else, So thank you so much. And that's a huge shout out to Cooper Walls, who joined us recently as a Patreon member. And I'll do this a little later, but I'm going to do it right now. And if I'm moving a little faster, because I'm really being time conscious and I want to discuss some things today, and I want to make sure that we don't go too over, but also want to get to certain things. So you'll see me speaking a little quickly, but don't fret because we're going to touch on a bunch of things. I don't know if we have any new authors. So Chris, if we do, let me know and I'll put them up. But yeah, I'm removing it right now. I have my finger. I had it ready to go. So discussing Simon, just to get into it, discussing Simon, and I'll get to the updates in a little while. There aren't that many updates, but I'll get to them in a moment. Simon, and as the title says, the title, goes into the, if you see me going like this, I'm looking at the list of books and upcoming titles and things like that. And it's good to keep them straight. The book is titled Immortal. And so in this Monty and Strong book, I don't know if it's a departure. I don't want to say it's a departure from the usual stuff that they're dealing with, because the world is not at stake basically, but there's danger that's presented to both Monty and Simon, but mostly Simon. But it's tied in with Chi and Roxanne, and Monty does something that's going to have repercussions later on, and you get to meet another member of the family, which is really, really fun, and he's going to figure heavily in later stories, which is that's gonna be so great, that part. I can't tell you who it is because if we spoiling it, I don't want to spoil it, and I will be giving you guys a snippet for the weekend, but I'm not gonna spoil the new member of the family that you get to meet. But he's a lot of fun. But Simon is really finding out what it means to be immortal, or what, because he always says he's cursed alive, but he doesn't understand why it's a curse. Really, I mean, you're immortal, you can't die, you get attacked, and you come back, you heal, and so why is this a curse? And so he has this great, yes, almost as fun as Dex, yeah. So he has this moment, this conversation with Kali, where she tells him that the curse that he has is a curse and a favor, because he says, I need a favor, and she says, more than the immortality I already gave you. He says, well, okay, first you call it a curse, then you say it's a favor. I'm not seeing the curse, right? And she says, oh, you're not seeing the curse. And then let me help you. I'm not going to tell you that part, how she helps him. Let's just say the help is not good, but it does open his eyes. But he ends up realizing, and I learned this part right now that I put into the book when I went to speak to some war vets, Vietnam, Korean War. I didn't really get to speak to World War I vets because they have to be really old for World War I. But I did get to speak to a World War II vet at the park. And one of their biggest, I guess, sadnesses, it wasn't fighting for the country. It wasn't, being a vet or being wounded or not. It's being alone. And this happens to, and I spoke to a few seniors too. Like, when I say seniors, I mean like 80s, 90s, all right? The saddest part of that for a senior is that watching all the people around them pass away, or their friends pass away, or their loved ones pass away, and they still remain. And so I said, and I asked them, so why is that so hard? Because they said, because you can't just live in your memories. When you start losing all your friends, all the people who mean something to you, each time you lose someone, a little bit of life loses meaning. And it made me realize why couples who've been together for a long time, when one passes away, the other passes away almost, I wouldn't say immediately, but like close. They pass away close, because the second person that still remains, that person who's gone, that was their world. And so now they've lost the meaning of their world, right? So when Kali tells Simon that he's been cursed alive, and Simon, yeah, he kind of gets it, but he doesn't. She explains to him, everyone that you know, one day will be dust. And then, and this is a line from the book, and then you will truly know how I've cursed you. And I was like, whoa. I shuddered. I was like, whoa, because it's so wow, and so she helps Simon understand that viscerally through certain things that she does, that it's in the book. I'm not going to say that part because you will kill me. And I'm not going to spoil the book for you, but it makes, okay, I'll give myself as an example. There've been many times in my life where I should have been dead. Okay. I used to play on the subways in New York City. Playing on the subways is a good way to end your life early, right? So I used to be a graffiti artist. I've done things that, like, I run on the edge of roofs and things like that in New York City. That's also a good way to like check out early. I've been involved with dangerous individuals when I was growing up, and not the kind that that you want to be associated with. Let's just put it that way, because I don't need to go back and relive all of that. So it's when you realize, and I won't say I'm living on borrowed time, I'm living on gifted time, right? And everything that I have now, I realize that if any of the things that I had done when I was younger had gone right instead of left, or had gone left instead of right, I could have not been here. So it's like that. So when you realize your life is a series of not coincidences, I won't say coincidences because I don't really believe in coincidence, but a series of choices made at the right time at the right place, you don't take it for granted, right? And so Simon is learning in Immortal what it means to be immortal, like the real meaning of what it means to be immortal and how it's a curse and a favor. And he's understanding that more as the story progresses and what he has to do within the story. And where is it? Let me see. I'm trying to see where that book is. Jeez, is it that far out? Because later on, we're on book 23. We're talking in the 40s, I think 44, 43 or 44. There's a book titled Mortal, and he becomes mortal in that book. Oh, and that's gonna be good because at that point he's already used to being immortal for so long, and then through a series of things that occurs, he ends up being mortal for that book, and that's gonna be crazy because he's mortal. He can really die. Like anything can kill him now. You don't need a special weapon or a special ammo. This guy could die from a gunshot wound, or anything can kill him. And he still has to do what he does as himself, right? And as a mortal, he still has a lot of the same enemies that are coming after him, but they don't know that he's mortal now. They don't really know that he's immortal, but they don't know that he knows he's mortal, and he's still got to go do the things that he's normally going to do, right? And so it gives him an appreciation for like Monty, who's not immortal and yet still has to go out and face monsters, right? And that's touched upon in this book. Like, Monty breaks it down to him. I've run into enemy fire. I've faced monsters. I've faced enemy mages. I've gone into enemy territory. I've faced gods and goddesses. And Simon goes, yeah, I get it. Mages are amazing and invincible. He goes, no. And you're fearless, right? Simon goes, yeah, and you're fearless. And he goes, no, I'm not fearless. In fact, I've had to bury so many of the people that claim to fear nothing and no one. I'm not going to say anymore. Anyway, so they have moments like that, right? And Simon is realizing that being immortal is really part curse and not so much a favor. Because if you think about it, living forever is not a gift. And that's what Kali's trying to explain to him. Like, you think it's great now. Wait, let's talk about this later in a few centuries. And then wait, let's talk about it later in a few thousand years. And then wait, let's talk about it a few thousand years from then. Then you let me know if it's a curse or a favor. So, yeah. Hey, welcome, Paige. Yes, you lost track of time, but you're here, and that's what matters. Okay, what am I planning? Oh, Marie, what I'm planning. Yikes. Let's see. All right, so let me update some stuff. So, okay, quick tangent shift. Blur is doing amazing. I'm a little wary about Blur because it's the first book since I started with Spiritual Warriors that is now wide. I started wide as an author and nothing happened. I was like, oh, this isn't going to work. And then right before I started, KU wasn't around yet. It was just talking about KU and the Kindle. There was no Kindle either. The book didn't the device didn't exist. Amazon was still working on it. So once I started hearing the rumblings about the Kindle and KU, I said, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I'm gonna try and get in on that when it goes live. But I still had Spiritual Warriors out, and I think I had Blur out. And so when the Kindle came out, I started looking for a way to get on the Kindle, and what did I have to do? And Kindle version 1.0 was the gold rush because you could put anything up on the Kindle and it would just be gangbusters. It would sell because it wasn't that much content, right? So Blur was was wide, and it remained wide, and it remained off the Kindle because I didn't want to put it on there because first there was no Kindle, and second I didn't want to move Blur to there for some strange reason. I don't know what it was, but I kept writing, and I was writing so much so quickly that Blur kind of remained. Well, first Blur didn't get revisited until now, and that was 10 years ago. And also, I never put it on KU, so it was never ever on KU. So I didn't feel bad taking Blur wide this time with the revision because it had never been on KU. So now it's doing well. I'm pleasantly surprised because it's a lot of work when you're wide, because you have to be on. We're still on Amazon. We're just not on KU. We're on Amazon, Smashwords, Draft2 Digital does a whole bunch of distributing, so a whole bunch of different outlets, and Dolly's doing all of that. So Dolly's like taking Blur as her project, and she's just, okay, we're gonna put this everywhere, and she's doing a fantastic job. Shout out to Dolly, who's probably seeing me where she is, and it's like she's taking that book, and I said, okay, do whatever you got to do with that book. I'm cool with it being wide. I'm still cautiously optimistic, but it's going really well, and I'm pleasantly surprised. So I'm going to be working on Stone, which is the next. So there's 5 books in that series right now. So Stone, and that's the next book, and that series is going to be a little darker because John Kane is a darker character. He's very much like a gray character, but he reminds me of like an older John Wick. And actually, someone pointed this out. John Kane was written before John Wick. So no, I did not copy John Kane from John Wick. Bye, Facebook user. Well, I don't know what your name is, but bye. Take care. Have a great weekend. All right, so Chris says, my 2,000-year-old Chinese maid said the same thing. Living forever is a curse when everyone dies. Yes, this is a very accepted kind of maxim, idea, concept. Yeah. Oh yeah, I completely admit that Dolly is the wizard behind the curtain. Like behind the screen, Dolly's doing pulling all the strings, and I'm just a talent. That's all I do. I'm just a talent. She's like, she shapes it, directs it. She gets promos and puts them out and things like that. Yeah, she's doing all the heavy lifting is being done by Dolly. I'm just writing the books. That's all. So yeah. So yes, Stephen, you are correct. So that's just kind of a little bit of a backstory with Immortal. I will put up a snippet today in the midst of all my running around because I got a lot of stuff to do today, and I'm flying solo today. But I'll put up a snippet today because I haven't in a while. And the book, I really want to have the book come out. The art, I'm sorry, not the book, the art on. So if I'm looking this way, it's because my big calendar on the wall is this way. For Monday, I want to say Monday, have the art ready, open for you guys to go and just jump in and have fun. And I'm having a lot of fun. Let's see. I was writing this. So I'm realizing that as I write certain parts of the story with Monty and Strong, I'm writing with a smile. I'm laughing or whatever. So whenever I write Peaches, I'm always laughing. I'm always smiling. And Dolly can tell because she looks at me, and but I'm always, as I write Peaches parts, I'm always smiling because I'm trying to imagine what Peaches, a hellhound, would say. And I was explaining this to Z, our opener and closer, and she goes, "But why did you name him Peaches? Like, what? That's such a weird name." And so this is like a whole thing. Good morning, Wendy. Welcome. I explained to her that Andrew Vox, which is he's a fantastic author, but he writes more true crime. And I don't remember the name of his character, the main guy, but I do remember the name of the dog, the character, right? He goes after killers, and this guy's like no joke. So, and this is a straight thriller series. There's no magic. This is a guy, he's a detective. Think Philip Marlowe, think, classic Pulp Fiction type. Yeah, Burke is his name? I believe it is Burke, yeah. So, Burke solves crimes, like, serious crimes. And I have the whole series. I read it a long time ago. But what stuck with me is that Burke has this Mastiff, huge dog that's like a menace, and he's trained it to like just be devastating. And this Mastiff's name is Pansy. And I was like, oh my God, that is so perfect. Because you see a huge mastiff. Like, I mean, imagine a mastiff that's like a huge, scary dog, and he named it Pansy. I'm like, that is like a stroke of genius. So if I ever create a dog for my character, I'm gonna name him something like that's so weird and a paradox to what the dog actually is, right? Because I always wanted to have a dog in the character, as a character, and so when it came time to write, so I kind of put that idea in the back burner and just let it simmer. And so when it came time to write a dog, so I'm not going to write a regular dog. That makes no sense because these guys are going to be fighting monsters and creatures and gods, and a regular dog is just not going to cut it. So it's like, it's going to be a hellhound. And since they're already hanging out with Hades, this is perfect. The hellhound could be a scion of Cerberus. So, but now what to name this dog? Because, it doesn't, it can't just be. I'm not gonna go cliche and name it like Storm or Volcano or something, something ferocious, And so, what would be perfect if you named this hellhound Peaches, and that was inspired. I don't know where it came from. That was fantastic, and it brought back the memory of Pansy. I was like, oh, and so I explained this to Zoe, and she goes, your brain is weird. And I go, yeah, so you have no idea how weird my brain is. So there goes a little bit of the story of Peaches, right? And then this is for the patrons, right? There's an actual, I guess it's a mini origin story in Patreon of how Peaches came to be Peaches and why he wasn't destroyed. Because if you think about there's a little backstory in the series Mounting Strong, where Cerberus destroys any scions, any pups that are born, because he's very territorial, and he realizes that sooner or later these puppies are going to grow to challenge him, and he destroys them before they get to that point. And so he has a moment. So there's a moment where Peaches is born, Peaches comes around, and Hades, for some reason or another, well, actually Persephone, but Hades, for some reason or another, doesn't let Peaches get destroyed. And Persephone's like, you can't let him get destroyed. And Persephone, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember the story correctly, she's the one that names Peaches Peaches, and you can't change the name. You guys, because she named him, like, no. And she's like, you can't let him get destroyed. And he's like, listen, this is Hades. Like, I don't know, you know how Cerberus is, and so Hades has to go have a conversation with Cerberus about you can't destroy Peaches. And it's like, so I can't give it away because it's a Patreon story, but that's it's all kind of involved in that. Audrey says we had a Dobie rescue that we named Snoopy. His birthday was Snipper, but because we didn't want people afraid of him before meeting him. Yeah, Snoopy's a nice name. Sniper. Oh, Sniper's not no, you don't want him named Sniper. Jeez, that's gonna put off people right away. Yeah, John does that. Yeah, John, when we say John, we mean John Wick. He calls his dog because he didn't give the dog a name. The second dog. The first dog, the catalyst for everything. A lot of people told me when they saw John Wick that the inciting incident, the thing that gets it all started, was a little lame or weak. And I was like, you must not have a dog. You must not love dogs. You know how many people would have reacted like John if someone had touched their dog, like, oh man, or hurt their dog or killed their dog? You're definitely not getting it. So people, and it's weird because it's even more than cats. Even though I know people who are really attached to their cats, but the dog for some reason resonates and hits a chord with people. But to start that movie that way was smart because it touched everyone in a specific way, especially when it's a beagle. Beagles are beautiful dogs. Yeah. Oh yeah, Daisy, right? Because I remember the flower. Yeah, Daisy. Yeah. And so the beagle was Daisy. The second dog was Dog. The one that would look like a pity was Dog. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, see, calling the dog Callie was a destroyer. That's, yeah. I think here's my take. This is my opinion. Whether it's people or animals, names have power. And so the names that you are bestowed, or the names that you bestow upon others, bring certain, I won't say baggage, but they bring certain traits with them. And I think this has been studied. If I'm not mistaken, I'll have to look it up, but it's been studied where the name actually has an influence on the development of a child or a person, you know, and or an animal, but more a person. The name has a real influence. This is my opinion. Names do have power though, so take that with a grain of salt. Let's see. I take care of one mastiff named Clementine. Oh, I love mastiffs, but they're just so big. I can't fit a mastiff in my apartment, which is why if we get a dog, it's a big if. It would be a staffy, the small staffy. I've seen these small staffies because my sister has a big staffy, a normal size staffy, and his head is like this big. But yeah. I think Marie cats are more Sebastian style. Sebastian seems a little bit more prim, proper kind of guy, and cats, yeah. And then his second is a tiger, so I think that kind of fits right in, that he would be more prone or have more of an affinity for cats, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I want to have another animal, but we can't, not right now, so it's gonna have to wait. Okay, any questions for Immortal that are not spoilerish? Formulate them, bring them out. I'm also working on if yeah. I'm also working on, can I say it? I'm working on a secret project. It's a secret project that's coming right after Immortal. That's gonna be fun. April, May, yeah, like right after Immortal is coming out, and then I'm working on the next. I'll be having in June because it's every 3 months. So the next Patreon story, Patreon number 14. Wow, so we have 14 Patreon stories. So the next Patreon story will be at the end of June. So if you see me looking this way, I'm looking at our production schedule. So all this stuff has to be kind of, because there's a lot of things happening all at once. Yeah. So yeah, and that's kind of, I'm in the middle of juggling like 3 balls, 4 balls, 5 balls, things like that. Let's see, what do I have? Oh, Blur. If you haven't left your review, please do, because it's wide. It didn't get a bunch of reviews all at once because it's wide, right? So if you haven't left one, please do, because it helps it more because it's a wide book. So it'll help more people kind of catch on and see it. And I know the rankings are gonna be really low in the rankings because it's wide and it has a lot of competition. It's in a genre where it has stiff concentration. It's assassination thrillers, espionage thrillers. It's gonna have a lot of stiff competition in that genre, which is fine. I don't mind the competition because I'm gonna write the story that I have to write. But if you guys make sure to leave your reviews, then it would help it in its rankings, and that's the whole thing. Just kind of help it out so it gets more visibility. That's it. Here we go. So how have you guys been? I've been busy. I've been really, really busy. Do I sell hardback copies of your books? I haven't created hardback copies except for Tomb Yards and Butterflies, and that was an experiment gone wrong. But I have another hardback copy, which is a collector's edition with also Tomb Yards and Butterflies. Let's see if I have it here. Hold on. This is the one that went wrong. As you can see, it's kind of weird, like it's cut off, and inside it's meant for people with super eyes, because look what happened. The formatting is off, so it's really tiny. So this was just an experiment to see how it would work. But this is the collector's edition. Hold on. Let's see if I can get it without knocking down everything. Okay. There's not that much of a market for it. That's why this is a collector's edition. This is a collector's edition. Right? So you can see it. It's really awesome. Like that. And then the back. It's really amazing. Then the inner lining is this. Right? You can see the bookmark. That's like gold leaf. It's amazing. And then the book itself is, it's really amazing. So it's incredible. This is the book. Right? And so Looks like this. It's beautiful. And I only had a few of these made. One, because they're expensive. But two, there's not really a market in terms of like people wanting them. So I'm leaning more towards making these because these are more like the commercial type. And then people do want hardbacks, but I just got to get the formatting right. So there's not much of a market for it. But I'm going to have more of the collector's editions made, and then we'll kind of have to find a way that we can kind of gift them to the mob or have like drawings or things like that. I'm going to discuss that with Dolly and see how we could do it, because those do run. That one collector's edition was about $50 to make, and that's the price for me. So it's crazy. So it's really expensive, but the work is amazing. I would think it would cost a lot more. When I found out the prices, whoa, really? Okay, I'm gonna get like 4 or 5. So they're all gone. I give it to family, and yeah, but they're not. It was beautiful. I have one left, which is my copy. And I'm looking into, because Amazon allows you now to make the hardcovers. So, but the cost is still prohibitive. So we'd have to figure out a way to get them and then make it so it's affordable, because it is still pricey. That hardcover reminded me of when I used to buy hardcover Terry Pratchett books. It runs commercial about $20-something, 22, 24, like that, you know? So yeah, but it's worth it. I like the hardcovers. They look great. And I would love to have all the books in hardcover, but at this point I'm on book 23. So it's like anytime I think I have to do something in Monty and Strong in that series, and I say, okay, we got to change this to this, or we got to add something to the back matter, I'm like, it's 23 books. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, the red shirt competition. Okay. Well, it's too late for this for Immortal. I can't add a character in at this point because I'm nearing the end game, right? Not the end game tango, just the end game. But for the next book, which is Resolutions, and that's going to be a fun story. In that book, if I'm not mistaken, Monty and Simon quit. They say, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. And then the repercussions of that. So that's going to be fun. So definitely for that story, we got to do it with enough time. That's anything, because I have to be able to include the red shirt into the story, and that's the key, you know. Oh, I'm sorry to hear. Yeah, I don't do cats. I can appreciate cats. I like cats. I think I had a few cats when I was small, like young, but cats and I, it's an interesting dynamic that I have with cats. We get along great, but we can't be in each other's space for too long. I don't know what it is. This is the way it is. And one of the Valkyries can't deal with the dander, so we're definitely never getting a cat, because it's a breathing thing, so that's not good. But getting back to the hardbacks, there's not much of a market for it, unfortunately. I wish there were, but there's at least not in the indie world. Hardcover world, in the traditional world, I think hardcovers, books start as hardcovers, and then they have to sell a certain amount. They get out of the hardcover. If they're selling enough hardcovers, they can get into paperbacks. I'm not completely sure that's still the case in the traditional publishing world, because they might have seen how indies do it and figure, hey, it's cheaper to just go straight to paperback, you know? But yeah. So yeah, I can't do cats. We don't do cats. It's just allergies, dander, and the aloofness. I don't get along with the aloofness. They don't get along with my aloofness. So yeah, instead of just avoiding each other, it's kind of like a détente. We just have a cold war, and it's not cool. So you're wearing a red tee? No, doesn't work like that. We gotta create a really good question. So let me explain the red shirt competition for those who've never participated or heard of it, and the history of the red shirt. So the red shirt competition comes from, it's definitely, you can tell this is a Trekkie thing. So this is from all the Trekkie fans. The red shirts in Star Trek, and we're talking about the original series, right? Anytime they would beam down to a planet, you knew that if anyone was wearing a red shirt, unless it was Scotty or Uhura, if they were wearing a red shirt, they weren't beaming back up to the Enterprise. That's just the way the stories worked. If you were wearing a red shirt and you were on the away party, That was it. You were done. It would be like, Williams, go check what's on that hill. And then Williams would go check what's on that hill, and some monster would eat Williams. Go, oh, poor Williams. And almost every episode, there was one red shirt that bought the farm. So having a red shirt competition is basically putting characters in the book that you know are going to die. And so I open that up to the mob. So if they answer questions, and it has to be really hard questions, and they get the answer right, they get to be a character that is a guaranteed death in the next story. So we're going to but we're going to reestablish the red shirt competition for the next Monty and Strong story, which is called Resolutions, and that's book 24. The thing was that it was usually previous red shirts that created the question for the next red shirt. But I think we're going to go back to, we'll have the mob create some questions, and then we'll pick the best question. You know? Let's see. When I was younger, my rabbit Blackstone would chew on. Whoa! Plus the dining room table. Yeah, because they have those teeth that they could chew through a lot of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad he calmed down after that, though. Yeah, we've never had rabbits. Our pets were limited to dogs and cats, but mostly dogs. But we've never had rabbits because rabbits are a much more rural animal. I know a lot of friends that I had growing up had them in cages. I did have hamsters and gerbils, but my mom got rid of those too because they would get out and they would get everywhere. So we stuck to dogs, and we had dogs most of the time. It was dogs. Yeah. I never had a rabbit. That would have been fun though. But in my culture, rabbits make great stew. And there was always a danger that a pet rabbit could also end up as dinner. And no, we're not gonna do that. So we prevented the rabbit situation. See, I'm not a cat person either. Saw Cats the show in '80s, fell asleep. Saw Cats the show. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, Chris, in my house, I used to go to the butcher. I guess it's not the butcher. What is it called? The livestock place. I know the name in Spanish is called vivero, but in English, I guess it's like the livestock shop, or it's not a butcher per se, even though it is a butcher. But they would have all kinds of animals. They would have rabbits, duck, goose, different kinds of beef, lamb, goat. So they would have all these animals there. And yeah, we've gotten rabbit before, but never as a pet. It was like my mom would go there. She would say, I want that rabbit. And right there, and then they would prepare it, and it would be ready for dinner. It was not like it's going to come home and Bugs is going to hang out with the kids for a little while. And then, no, it would be Bugs came home ready to be eaten, to be cooked and eaten. So, yeah. We have one in our neighborhood, but there's only one. I mean, it's hard to find them now. I don't know why. It's the whole production of food has changed, but those livestock places are really rare now. You must go away, alas. Yeah, it's okay. It's good, but yeah. So those places, Chris, are hard to find. I think because people are used to getting their food in supermarkets. It's easy to go to a supermarket and pick up meat. It's a lot of people don't want to see the animal, but my mom's generation, you grew up seeing the animal, killing the animal, preparing the animal, and cooking the animal, and then eating it, right? So it's different, you know. Oh, that's really cool, Connie. That's a great experience. Yeah. Are you leaving? Are you going? Oh, if you're leaving, Marie, have a great weekend. Bye. All right, Chris, I'm gonna get to the questions early today because our time. I can't believe it's already 12:15. I don't know. I really think that we step into some kind of time slip warp thing when we start this show, because the last time I looked, it was 11:45. So, and I blink and that's 12:15. So either I'm quantum jumping or something. So I'm gonna go to the questions. I won't be able to see the feed, and Dolly's not here, so I won't be able to see the feed until I come right back. Okay, so let me go to the questions real quick. But you guys can still see me. All right, here we go. Questions. First questions from Chris Chrisman. Thank you, Chris. You guys thank everyone for their questions. You guys are awesome. I really, really appreciate you all for the questions. Kristen gives me the first question. When you were younger or single, did you ever live in a cold water flat? No, I've always lived. Okay, let me preface that by saying I used to live in the Bronx when I was really young, and so there were some really, really bad places that we lived in the Bronx when I was young after my father died, right? And so sometimes there was no heat, so it was a cold water flat because there was only cold water. There was no hot water, and some of the places that we lived in were really, really rough when I was growing up. I mean, I used to fight every day when I was a little kid because the Bronx, when I was growing up, was the Bronx. It was dangerous. So I can't say I lived in a traditional cold water flat, but I lived in places where there was no hot anything, no heat and no hot water. And those stories of turning on the oven to warm the apartment, I've lived that. So yes, it's rough, really rough. Okay, great question though, Chris. Great question. Rebecca asks, if Frank were given the choice between going full dragon or full human, which would he choose? Full dragon. He's already been a full human. So why would he want to go back? His whole thing was to go dragon, and he kind of got stuck thorny lizard. So he would definitely go full dragon for sure. But I don't know if he would. I mean, by now I think he kind of likes being the way he is. He's used to it. And I think he likes being underestimated and then scaring everybody half to death. So yes, I think he'd stay the way he is. But if he had to choose one and had to pick one, he would go full dragon. Because he'd learn how to stay a thorny dragon at that size, but be a full dragon. And then he can get big like Peaches XL, you know? Oh, Frank would love something like that, yeah. Maybe we'll have Frank learn a cast that makes him become a full dragon for one story. That would be great. Or write a short story like that in Brew and Chew or something. That would be great. No, another Rebecca question. Ursa and Tiger team up. No. We don't want to destroy the city. No, they cannot team up. They can hang out. They can't team up. That would be like, no, that would be destruction. I mean, it's bad enough with Simon, Monty, and Peaches. Ursa and Tiger would be a bad combination to unleash on a city. No. You know, we have something like that already. It's called the Midnight Echelon. And they're the ones that, unleash when things really start hitting the fan. You call Nan and crew, Braun, Maul, Vi. You get them involved, it's pretty much taken care of because they're Valkyries. They're dark Valkyries, and they are badass. We don't need to add Ursa and Tiger to that mix because nothing's going to survive. It'll be a crater after it's done. Yeah. All right, and Audrey's question, because her streak is running strong. Audrey has a first question. Orlando, how do you select the names of your characters? Wow, that is, Audrey, I don't know how you come up with these questions. They're really good. I mean, they're all good, but Audrey, I think you sit all week thinking, how can I get Orlando? All right, how do I select the names of my characters? Some characters come prefabbed. What I mean is, some characters, the names come with the character. I'll give you an example. I needed the security guy for Haven, and I said I need a strong kind of old name for this big security sorcerer, right? Like Paul Bunyan type guy. And so I said I need someone like that. And so I let my head, the brain, start thinking, and then the name Elias came to my. Like, Elias is perfect. So I need a good, strong last name. So it became Pern. So Pern is like, seems like an old epic fantasy kind of name. And Elias Pern sounds really like a perfect big guy, like a Paul Bunyan type, right? He's also a sorcerer. He's serious, no nonsense. And that's perfect. And so that's kind of the process. Usually I get the name first, and then the character develops around the name. So like, for example, Coda from Night Warden, I got the name Coda first because Coda in music, it's CODA, right? Which means the end, right? And I got the name Coda I created it with the KODA, and I said, okay, who is Coda? So I have a whole file in my phone about who is such and such, who is, and because I'll get these names randomly, and I don't know who they are yet. So I just get the name. Who is this person? Let me see if I can find one real quick because it's always accessible, right? Names, titles, and names. Okay, so I get who is Coda, who is Wank, who is Redwood, who is Jericho Moon. That was Jericho Porter before he became Jericho Porter, right? Jericho Moon. Who is Helen Bach for Bangers and Mash? That's a Bangers and Mash name. Helen Bach is basically like hell and back, right? Who is Torquemada? That should sound familiar. Torquemada. If you read Endgame, right? Who is Ekt? EKT. I changed it means true and genuine. So these are names that just come to me. Like I'll be doing something and then I get a name, Audrey, and it just comes and these names come to me. And I'll write it down because it is a name, or I'll hear a name and go, wow, that name sounds really interesting. I should kind of hold on to that because I know somewhere I'm gonna be able to use that name. And so that's usually the case. So the names usually come first, and then characters spring up around them. I don't usually get characters first. The only time I got the characters first was Monty and Strong. I got the ideas of who they were, what they did, where they came from. All of that came first. And that's okay, I need an English name. I need a really good English name, a name that when you hear it, you immediately think UK, English. Not because even though that's not the same thing, UK is one thing, English is another thing. But I need a really good English name. So Tristan, because Tristan sounds incredibly English to me, right? And then I need an American name, a kind of regular Joe kind of American name, a guy who can be in New York City and kind of have, yo, hey, what's up? Yo? And Simon Strong, because it's a cool name. I liked it. And so that's how Simon and Monty kind of, and of course Monty is because Simon will refuse to call Tristan, and he's not going to call him Montague. So he's going to call him Monty because, hey, he's a New Yorker. He's not going to call you by your real name. He's going to create a nickname for you. That's a New York thing. I mean, I'm sure it's an everywhere thing, but definitely in this city growing up, no one calls you by your name. They call you, hey, I was called Smiley growing up. Hey, Smiley, come here. It's like that. So that's how it works. So I hope that answers your question, Audrey. Dolly can't answer her question today because she's not here. So I'm gonna save that question for when she comes back, and she'll be back she'll be back ready to be for the next Kaffeeklatsch, which is on May 3rd. Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Next question from Audrey. Next and final question. What is the weirdest, most unusual, most interesting research you have done for your writing? Ooh, there's too much. I can't even. We need a show just for that. I'd say when I went to London and got lost deliberately because I was writing Homecoming was around that time. And so I walked around Hyde Park. I walked around the Thames. I walked around the Eye. Then I got lost near the Globe Theater, and I went into all the little side streets. And where else did I wander? Windsor Castle, I went by there, and then I went by Buckingham Palace, and I went all over. I was just roaming the city. I went to Canary Wharf and the banking district around there. And so I kind of roamed the city, just looking at all these streets. And then I went on a pub crawl with one of the UK mob and drank Guinness, that real Guinness that knocked me out. After the second Guinness, I was already loopy, and we still had more pubs to go hit. But I went because I wanted to see the different pubs, although my Guinness amount started getting smaller and smaller because it was just too much. I'm not a drinker. And so I was like, this is super Guinness, right? He goes, no, this is just real Guinness, which you guys get in the States. Not real Guinness. And I believed them. It was strong. After the first Guinness, which was this big, it wasn't even a normal glass. It was just humongous. And I said, I have to drink this whole thing. He said, yeah, that's the average glass of a Guinness. So it's like, I drank that Guinness. It was so good. It's really good. Like if I'm going to drink a stout, I drink Guinness, right? I don't drink anymore, but yeah. But, and then the second one, I was already kind of seeing cross-eyed after the first Guinness because I'm a lightweight when it comes to drinking. And the second one was like, oh, I started walking like I was weaving. And then we had like 3 more pubs to go to. And I said, okay, I can't do Guinnesses this big. I'm gonna have to do maybe they have a child-sized Guinness. And so yeah. Yes, I did go to 221 Baker Street. Yes, I went to Baker Street because come on, how can I be in England and not go to Sherlock's home? So yes, I went there. Just like I've gone to Bleecker Street where Doctor Strange lives. Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. There's the emphasis is on crawl. You end up crawling by the end of pub crawls because it's like, wow. And so I was having the Guinnesses and I was drinking and I was like, whoa, okay, I can't do too much of this because it's, yeah, not going to work. But I was able to kind of just go into the pubs and look around, and some of the pubs are like 1,000 years old. It was incredible. And I've done that kind of research in New York, but New York is my city. So I know New York really well. I've gone to the places where tourists will never go. I've gone to the places where tourists can't go because they just don't know about it or they wouldn't be welcome there. Or if they get lost in that area, it would be dangerous. I've gone into these places. I've gone into places in New York that you're not supposed to go, and abandoned subway tunnels and places that are not allowed for people to go. So I've done that in New York. So I can't say I've done that research. I've experienced that research the same way in New York City, because New York City, I grew up exploring the city. For me, the entire city was my playground. I would go all the boroughs, except for Staten Island. We don't consider Staten Island a borough, but all the boroughs, and just explore it. We would go for a weekend, and this is why I say I would never let my kids go like that. But I would leave like on a Saturday morning with my friends, and we'd just get on the trains, on the subways, and just go out into the city. Like feral kids, we just go do that. And that's how we explored the city. And then when I started playing handball, and I started getting really good at handball, and I became an A player, I was invited to go to different parks in the city. And there are parks in every borough in New York City. And I would go play. And I'm still exploring the city because I'm going to parks at places of the city I've never been to, but I would get invited to. Yeah, I'm seeing 15 minutes. I'm here. I'm watching. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. So yes, but yeah, exactly. Hey, I'm walking here. That's Simon, for sure. If you have any questions you want to ask now, we got 15 minutes because I'm closing this down in 15 minutes. For real. Connie says, when I worked at a bar at the time, there was a group that would do the pub crawl yearly thing. Yes. Audrey, great question. Great question. I recommend it for every author if you can. For me, it was a singular thing because I dovetailed that trip to London, England, with the UK, with one of the UK storyteller finalists. So I did all that research while I was there for that, and the actual research, I didn't get to use it until several books later. But I took, like, as I say, copious notes. I took really good notes, pictures galore. I went to go see the changing of the guard. I went to Buckingham Palace. I took pictures with the actual guards. I went to the Tower of London. And you know, Tower of London is in the books because I destroyed it a few times, much to the upset of a few UK mob readers. I walked almost the entire Thames, and there are a lot of places of the Thames that are not touristy, but it's really interesting to walk it because these are the more mundane areas, and that's what you want to do as an author, is that you want to go to the mundane parts of wherever it is that you're putting in your book, because it lends more authenticity to the story. So I can describe places in New York City that people won't necessarily see, but I've walked and been there, and I've explored and walked around. And that's why now I can use Google Maps, and I can go anywhere in the city in Google Maps and go, oh yeah, I know, I remember what this is like. And you know, oh yeah, the Bethesda fountain in Central Park, I know where that is because I've sat there, and things like that, you know. Is Bastion related to the Treadwell? Yes, Sebastian. Yes. It helps writing if you've been to the real places you're writing about. I'm torn about that because I agree it helps a lot if you could be in the places that you're writing about. The only place that doesn't apply is like epic fantasy, where you have to create an entire world. That's tough because you can't say I've been there. Which makes me respect people like Terry Pratchett and Tolkien and all these epic fantasy authors even more, because they create the world. And for them, the world becomes just as real as the world we're living in now. So when they tell you Ankh-Morpork has this many streets and that's the neighborhood, and you go over here and so forth, you know, Pratchett's describing a neighborhood to you, but he's in his mind, it's a real place. Same thing with Tolkien and Middle Earth and all Arendelle and all this. He created an entire world, and so it became real. And when epic fantasy authors spend that much time world building, it's great. The only difference, or the only, I would say the only danger, is that you can get lost in world building easily. I tell you from experience, because I used to be a DM. And DM in Dungeons and Dragons, DMing is just creating a world and having people go through it and throwing monsters at them in situations. But it's just world building. It's interactive world building is basically what DMing is. So I can tell you for a fact, because I've had campaigns that ran months and years. You could spend a lot of time world building and never, ever finish the world. And if you're an author and you're doing that with an epic fantasy, that's a problem, because you got to get to the book and you got to write the story and you got to get the story out. And that's hard, you know? Yes, and more pork. Thank more pork. It doesn't make you a better writer. No, I agree with that. You just it ties into the whole world building, right? And this is how we as writers, these are pitfalls to avoid, because we as writers can get so caught up in, I'm researching for a story, or researching for a book, or I'm researching for this part of the book. We get so caught up in the research, we get so caught up in, I have to go visit this place, that you get caught up in the visiting and the walking around and the research, and you never get to the actual story, because you still have to, like when I would walk the Thames, I'm sure people saw me as the strangest tourist walking the Thames. I would walk the Thames with my eyes closed, because I wanted to hear the Thames. And then I would stop and smell, like, what does this place smell like? You got to do all your senses, right? I would go out in the rain and walk different areas, and how it sounded and how it felt, and what was the pedestrian traffic like? What did it sound like? And what did the neighborhood sound like? And is this place quiet, or is it noisy, or things like that? It doesn't make you a better writer just to visit these places. You have to kind of experience them. And so if you're going to go to places to use them in as settings for your stories, you have to be able to transport your reader to that place. Like I try to do that with the stories in Monty and Strong, and give them a sensation of, this is what the city feels like, and this is what, you know, different parts feel like at different times. It's kind of important. And I got a good feel for that when I wrote Iker, because Iker was an interesting story in the sense of, like, it was very visceral, and it was very much, you kind of felt that you were in the city with Iker and on his motorcycle and going around and doing things like that. Oh yeah, briefly about covers. Thank you, Chris. So if you're okay, I use the Immortal cover as a jump off point. So if you're an author, this is what I always tell authors, aspiring authors, even veteran authors, you have to invest in your cover, okay? I'm saying that as I look at the new Blur cover, because the new Blur cover took a lot of work. I wanted it to have a certain, so if you see my covers, all my covers have, bye Laura, have a great weekend. I'm so glad you got here today. Thank you. And I hope everything is going well with the hand. Be careful with the hand, okay? So the Blur cover, so all my covers, all the covers of all the series have what I call branding of some sort, right? So if you look, Monty and Strong has the knot, the eternal knot, right? Sepia had the kind of the mystical circle. Endgame Tango had peaches, because it was, you know, the stray dogs, right? So every cover needs to have, this is just my personal thing, and this is something it's a branding thing, right? Every cover that I create, or that DDD creates, but that I have them create, needs to have some kind of branding. So if you look at John Kane, which is the most recent cover I've kind of worked on, it has a big K in the back, because Kane, hello, the Kane series, right? And I want it, you made it, Rico, late, but you made it, and that's the key, you made it. So the John King cover, I'm going to use that as an example, because it's my cover and I can talk about it. It's set in the city. So in the back of the city, in the back of the cover, you see the Freedom Tower, and you see a lot of things that if you know New York City, you'll realize, oh, this is New York City. The name, this is a DDD thing that they did recently, recently in the books, but not that recent. But they put my name big, and I was like, oh, I don't want to put my name big. It's not this. I used to always say, it's not about me. It's about the book, right? But they say they need to be able to see who wrote the book. It's important that they see who wrote the book at a glance without having to squint to look for it. That's important. Your name has to be prominent. James Patterson has this down pat. In fact, I think James Patterson's name alone sells books, right? And that's going back to his brand. So, and the title has to be easily seen. So Blur, what I like about Blur is that it's big, but it doesn't hide John and Masami, who's on the cover. And it's this great balance of things that you have. And then you also have the John Kane series. And again, the symbol of the series, which is 5 circles, because there's going to be 5 abilities, and all 5 abilities are intertwined. So it makes this one symbol, and it says book 1. Because even though I don't do it on Monty and Strong, and I'm aware of which book is what, I can tell you what book is what. I know that some people like to know this book is book 1, this book is book 2, this book is book 3, right? So I said, okay, let's put the book numbers here. It's never going to happen with Monty and Strong. I'm sorry, because we're 23 books in. 22, well, 23 almost. So I'm not going to go back 23 books to start naming the books. I'm sorry, no. But since we were doing Blur, redoing Blur, right, the John Kane series, I said, let's make this one where they're numbered. It's only 5 books for now, because it might be more. And using the name, keeping the name big and prominent, that helps the brand, because, hey, I know that Orlando guy. He wrote Monty and Strong. Hey, maybe this book is good too. Let me try it out. It helps. And so you kind of want to make it so that the cover does the heavy lifting for you. So you see John, you see Masami, you see New York. It looks like this could be some kind of thriller. Okay, I'll try it out. It does the heavy lifting for you. You see a Monty and Strong cover. Let's see if I can find a Monty and Strong cover. Okay, I found a Wanda cover. I found Wanda, Night Warden cover. It's real quick because we only about have 5 minutes anyway. So Wanda, geez, Wanda's such a great. Wanda has such a special place in my heart because it's such a great looking cover. Okay, Wanda cover. Wow. I'm just sitting here in awe at the cover because it looks badass. It still does. Like that cover is gonna age well forever. The name is a little smaller because this is a while back, but it stands out because it has this great shadow on it. Right, my name. It's on top and has a shadow. Right behind it is the dragonfly emblem, which rivets your eye to it. Then you've got Gray standing with a sword, looking badass, and you've got Coda with her fans in this dramatic pose. The title itself is nice and big, and the color blends in with the background color. And then it says a Night Warden novel. Again, I wasn't using numbering conventions, right? So it's just a Night Warden novel. But at least you know it's a Night Warden novel, right? And so the covers are important. You have to, as an author, you have got to stress that your covers do the heavy lifting for you. Like I see a little Wanda cover, I would get it just based on, okay, not because I'm biased, not because I wrote it, but if I see that cover, I would get that book based on the cover alone. And that's just me, you know? And like Chris is saying, yeah, I hate it when authors, when they use the author's name to sell a book and it's not such a good book. And sometimes the author that wrote the book is not the author that's in big letters. I've seen this done with Stephen King, where you see Stephen King and then you see another author, almost like fine print on the bottom, and that's the author that wrote the book. And you get, it feels to me like a little bit of a bait and switch, right? And so I get it that it's kind of helping a beginning author and they're getting the credibility of an established author, but they really either give them equal billing or put the author's name bigger and say influenced by, and then put Stephen King on the bottom. And so at least that way you know, okay, Stephen King didn't write it, but he was influenced by it and he has maybe some communication with Stephen King. And so Stephen King influenced this book. It might be pretty good, but at least you're going in knowing. And so authors have to understand, and this is a mistake that a lot of authors make, have to understand that the cover has to do the heavy lifting. This is your main opportunity to get eyes on your book is the cover. Before word of mouth, before if someone sees the cover and goes, ooh, what is that? Oh, You lost them as a reader. It's sad, but it's really that, it's that quick and it's that brutal. If your cover is not doing the lifting, you're gonna lose a reader. Rico says, picked up Badass Supernatural Police Department. Seriously, because your name was on it. And now I read a book with Log's name on it because I enjoyed the series. Right. And that's how it works, right? Sometimes you'll pick up a book. The cover will make you pick it up. You don't know who the author is, but once you read it, it's basically like what I do. I see a cover, I see an author write a book, and I already enjoyed their books in the past. I automatically get the next book. I don't even think about it. I'm just, oh yeah, so-and-so wrote a book. Let me just go get it. Unless, like what we do normally as the mob, if it's an indie author, I'm going to really defer to that author because we always support our indie authors, right? But of all the indie authors I know, there's a lot of books I pick up just sight unseen. I pick them up because I know this author wrote it. That's just the way it is. Covers form a big part of that, just so you know. And I think one day we need to do an actual marketing kind of like what sells books for the authors, because that's kind of important. It's kind of important information that I had to learn the hard way, really the hard way. And I had to have a nice long conversation with DDD, so I think we need to do what sells a book kind of show. And I'll promote it early so people who don't want to, who aren't, and I think anyone can come to it because we're all readers and we can all share our experiences as readers as to why I got that book, why didn't I get that book, kind of thing, It's because sometimes we can explain why we get a book. Like Rico said, listen, I read this book, the book was good, and now I'm picking up this author and that author because I enjoyed the story. But there's sometimes where you just see a book and go, I really want to read that book. And now we can kind of deconstruct why we wanted to read that book without even knowing about the book. And then as a reader, it's a different perspective than a writer, right? So as a reader, you can look and say, why I got this book, and say, well, I like the color. Why that color? And things like that, or the image on the cover was incredible. Like if you ever picked up any book where there was the old Conan books or the old epic fantasy books with Frank Frazetta or Boris Vallejo, you would just pick up the book just to get the cover. Forget the story. You would just want the cover, And so, the John Rain books, which were excellent. Time. Okay, guys, I want you all to have a fantastic, awesome, incredible weekend. Okay. And I want you guys to I want to thank you for being here today. It's awesome. And I can't do this show without you guys being here. You're incredible. So be kind, be unstoppable, be uncommon. Have a wonderful, amazing, incredible weekend. Our next show is May 3rd. I'm going to pick our closing song because why not? This one is for Peaches. This is actually Peaches' theme song. So I'm going to put that on. And I'm going to take my face away. Bye, guys. You guys are awesome. And, I'll see you guys on May 3rd. I'll see you in the mob, obviously. The art will be open, I want to say Monday, maybe sooner. Okay? All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.